Assalamu alaikum. Hello viewers, how are you? Hope that you are very fine by the grace of Almighty Allah, and you are most welcome in my second English Academy as well as Raisa English Private Home. My dear learners, hope that you are very fine by the grace of Almighty Allah, and you are connected with me to watch my various kinds of video classes. Hope that you watched my previous classes smartly. And with the reference of my previous classes, my dear learners, today's class have been present in front of an important topics named transitive verb. Transitive verb. So, my dear learners, knowledge, take a look at the board and try to understand. My dear learners, in my previous class, we were told about transitive verb. Transitive verb. You're told that, my dear learners, transitive verb is a verb which has at least an object to express the meaning of a sentence completely. Of that, you have understood clearly. And with the reference of my previous class have been present in front of you with this argument named the transitive verb, that means classification of transitive verb. Today's class, I'm trying to show you about classification of a transitive verb. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. My dear learners, at the primary stage, we can classify transitive verb into four eyes. Four eyes. Number one, factitive, 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 transitive verb. Reflexive, transitive verb. Reflexive, transitive verb. Reciprocal, transitive verb. Reciprocal, transitive verb. And quasi-passive, transitive verb. Quasi-passive, transitive verb. Of the two, you have understood clearly. My dear learners, now I'm trying to show you about and the clarification of factitive verb. Factitive verb. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. What's factitive verb? Factitive verb. If we want to define factitive verb, we can say that, my dear learners, in this way, factitive verb is a transitive verb which which takes the help of another word to express the meaning of a sentence in spite of having a functional object complete. Okay, my dear learners, if we want to define the factitive verb, we can say that, my dear learners, factitive verb is a transitive verb. A factitive verb is a transitive verb which takes the help of another word to express the meaning of a sentence in spite of having a personal object completely object completely. Hope that you have understood clearly. Now, my children, I'm trying to show you about the list of adjective verbs. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. List of adjective verbs. Fact-checking verbs. Take a look at the board and try to understand. Selected, elected, nominated, made, called, named, affirmed. Take a look at the board and try to understand. Media learners, there are many categories of factitive verb. Among others kinds of factitive verb, only I'm trying to show you a few categories of verb and try to show you about the region of such categories of verb of factitive verb. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. In a sentence, these categories of verbs such selected, elected, nominated, made, called, named, appointed, etc. Will be a functional object, but and will won't be express the meaning of a sentence. And to express the meaning of a sentence completely, we will have to bring out another object, which is called factitive object. Object you have understood clearly. My dear learners, now I'm trying to show you about factitive object. You have to mind that shortly, my dear learners. A factitive verb is a verb, transitive verb, which takes help, another object, in spite of a functional object to express the meaning of a sentence completely. You have understood clearly. And there are various kinds of factitive verb in our English grammar, and among various kinds of verb in English grammar or factitive verb, these categories of verb are being very used in our English grammar, such as selected, elected, now, natured, made, called, named, appointed, etc. Hope that you have understood clearly. Let learners. Now I'm trying to show you about your reflexive verb. Reflexive verb. Reflexive verb. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. If we want to define our reflexive verb, we can say that, my dear learners, in this way, a reflexive verb is a transitive verb which is mixed with a reflexive pronoun. Pronoun in a sentence to express the meaning of a sentence. Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. my dear learners, if we want to define about the definition of reflexive verb, we can say that, my dear learners, reflexive verb is a transitive verb which is mixed with a reflexive pronoun in a sentence to express the meaning of a sentence. Of course, about various kinds of pronoun, with including reflexive pronoun were discussed and you were told about in my previous classes. If you don't watch my previous classes, you may go to my YouTube channel and you may be sure about various kinds of function of various kinds of pronoun and various kinds of parts of it. Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. And now I'm trying to show you about some example about reflexive noun. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Raisa fed herself. Graham killed himself. Jonathan hurt herself. Herself. Swayed introduced himself to us. The lady firms herself. Okay, my dear learners, to clarify about the reflexive transitive verb, I have written 5 examples in the board. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. So, in these 5 categories of example, I want to say to you that, my dear learners, faint, killed, hatch, introduce, and earn. Of course, reflexive verb, because this categories of verb in these 5 categories of sentence is mixed with reflexive pronoun. Reflexive reflexive pronoun. So, my dear learners, of the show, you have understood clearly. And from here, from this discussion, we have to mind that, my dear learners, any verb, any category of verb mixed with an reflexive pronoun such as myself, yourself, yourself as, themselves as, herself, itself, oneself, etc. Reflexive pronoun are called reflexive verb. Reflexive transitive verb. How from that job you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Now I'm trying to about reciprocal transitive verb. Reciprocal verb. If we want to define reciprocal verb, we can say that, my dear learners, uh, reciprocal verb is a transitive verb which is mixed with uh, reciprocal pronoun in a sentence to express the meaning of a sentence completely. Okay, my dear learners, you have to mind that, my dear learners, if we want to define about the definition of reciprocal pronoun, we can say that, my dear learners, a reciprocal verb is a transitive verb which is mixed with a reciprocal pronoun in a sentence to express the meaning of a sentence completely. Of course, you know that, my dear learners, about various categories of pronoun I discussed later in my previous classes. If you don't watch my previous classes, you may go to my YouTube channels and maybe sure about various kinds of pronoun, especially our reciprocal pronoun. Of that you have understood clearly. Now, I'm trying to give some example to clarify about this. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Raisa and swipe, love each other, each other. Next, them always help one another. My dear learners, I want to say that, my dear learners, in these two categories of sentence, verb, love, and help, of course, are reciprocal transitive verb, because these categories of verb in these two categories of sentence, love and help, are mixed with our reciprocal pronoun named each other or one another. Each other or one another. How for that joke? You have understood clearly, the dear learners. Now, I'm trying to show you about important verb in our English grammar named Q as a passive. Q as a passive. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Q as a passive. If we want to define a quasi-passive verb, we can say that, my dear learners, a quasi-passive, uh, quasi-passive verb is a transitive verb which is active in structural site but passive in meaning side. Okay, my dear learners, of the Troy you have understood clearly. My dear learners, among various kinds of verb, QH passive is a very important verb in our English. You have to mind that at the time of converting voice from active to passive, there are various kinds of uses of here's a passive verb. Here's a passive verb. So my dear learners, these categories of verb named Q as a passive verb is very important. So you'll have to try to save in your memory about the definition of Q as a passive verb. You'll have to mind that, my dear learners. A Q as a passive verb is a transitive verb which is active in structural side, but passive in meaning side. Passive in meaning side. Hope that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Now I'm trying to write some example to clarify about this. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. First example, my dear learners, honey taste sweet, rice sells cheap, the book reads oil, the book reads oil, the pen writes oil, the rose smells sweet. Okay, my dear learners, to clarify about your QSA passive verb, I have written 5 examples in the board, my dear learners. Take a look at the board and try to understand. So, in these 5 categories of sentence, my dear learners, let to mind that I want to say to you, my dear learners, test, test, cells, reads, writes, smells. These 5 categories of verb are called quasi passive verb. Quasi passive verb because these 5 categories of sentence are these 5 categories are active at structural side, but passive in meaning side. Passive in meaning side. Hope that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, I don't want to learn in today's class, but I want to share some information with you before finishing my today's class, my dear learners. Of course, you know that, my dear learners, I'm a new teacher or a new teacher in a YouTube channel, and though I'm Bangladeshi by birth, but I'm trying to use English classes at the time of my making various kinds of video classes. So, my dear learners, if you notice any fault in the midst of my video classes, please excuse me and free to all my channel so that I can help you. I can comfort you with my various kinds of video classes throughout my life. So, my dear learners, no matter they come to say again with the new version, the new class. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.